Want to share a fun fact with you today. Regardless of if you're going to be good or not, if you believe you're going to be good, what's one of the key factors for an agent succeeding and not succeeding? It's if you believe in yourself. If you believe you're going to succeed, then a lot of times you'll keep working until you eventually do succeed. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the top mindset shifts that drive sales success in real estate. I'd like to welcome you back to the Wolf's Den, where the wolves are always howling. And for our return audience, you already know that once you hear the howl, success is on the prowl.
Oh!
My name's Joe Cicero, 54 Realty, here with my co-host, who's always on the scene but never on the screen, Miss Producer.
Woo woo!
Miss Producer, how you doing today?
Doing good.
All right, let's jump right into it. So when we kind of get into the mindset and some things that are going to drive success in sales, when it comes to really any sales, not just real estate, it's going to be your mindset, right? You really got to stay positive. Starting off as a new agent, there's going to be a lot of turbulence. The road can get a little bit bumpy, got a lot of hurdles that you're going to have to jump. And a lot of times people are going to self-doubt themselves. So I always encourage you to really surround yourself by a strong network of people who have your best interest at heart, but also that are kind of in that positive mindset. If you start hanging around these negative Nellies or people that are constantly putting doubt in your head, then a lot of times it's going to force you to kind of not succeed and exit the business early. I remember when I was in coaching, I was with the Tom Ferry organization, and one thing he always talked about was getting out of your head. He called it the drunken monkey, and kind of like this voice in your head that's always kind of putting that self-doubt. Maybe it's like you're not good enough, you're not going to make it, and then you start kind of listening to those voices unless you yourself have that positive reinforcement to kind of overcome that. As a newer agent, when you're kind of struggling with success and trying to get into production rather quickly, it's good to really have that network, the people who believe in you. So they're constantly giving you positive reinforcement to kind of give you that mindset that you're going to need to succeed. And always remember, the only thing that separates winners from quitters is that winners never quit. Another thing that you're going to want to pay attention to when you're in real estate that you want to really have the right mindset for is language patterns. It's matching tonality with your clientele, who you're working with. If somebody kind of talks really fast and really loud like me, you'd want to kind of mirror that kind of and bring the same energy to the table. But other times when somebody talks very slowly or maybe at a low tone, you kind of want to lower your voice and possibly go a little bit slower. This kind of mirroring of your clientele kind of allows them to feel more comfortable working with you, and they think of you as kind of like-minded. So it's very important to kind of get in the right mindset of almost becoming somebody that mirrors your client rather than trying to get your client to mirror you. You also want to kind of pay attention and listen to what their needs and wants are. A lot of time in sales, we like to talk a lot, and we're all given two ears and one mouth for a reason. And usually in sales, there's going to be more listening involved than there is talking. Really deep dive, find out what their needs are. What are their wants? How can you be that solution to the problem that they're having? Which usually is as simple as finding a home to purchase or having a home that they're ready to sell. And when we're talking about the language pattern, some things you also want to do is try to find words that are going to be of better usage to you. For instance, a lot of times in our brokerage, we'll tell our agents to kind of replace commission with professional fee. Whenever most people think of commission, usually think it's the buffer of the charge of the service between what the good actually costs and what it's going to be sold for. And that commission is typically the spread that's going to be paid. We find that when you use the word professional fee, that people don't haggle with you or try to negotiate you down as much. Think, when was the last time you've gone to an attorney or an accountant or a dentist and you tried to get them to kind of bring down their fee or negotiate the cost that they were running their business with? A lot of times you don't see that, but if you're going to a sales lot when it comes to a car or buying a house and you think of commission, a lot of times people kind of trigger that in their mind that, hey, this is negotiable and I need to get that as low as possible. So it's really important to kind of pay attention to that. Another example of this would be that a lot of people, when pricing out a house and giving a market analysis, they'll use what's called comparable homes. And a lot of times they might take offense to it if you call it a comparable home. They might feel it's inferior to them, or other times they might have a home that you say is a comparable home that is superior to it, and now they're holding you to that comparison. So we've kind of changed that. Instead of saying comparable homes, we'll say relevant properties. These properties are relevant in getting the price for your home that we're going to market at, and that seemed to take away that kind of emotional tie from being comparable to the seller, whether it be bad or good. Like I said, a lot of times they're going to hold, if you're comparing it to something better, then they're like, hey, my house is comparable to that, I want that price. If you bring something inferior, then they might feel defensive that you're actually comparing their house to theirs. But if you just simply tell them that, hey, these properties are relevant in me computing the data for you to come up with a market valuation so we can enter the market, then it's going to give you a completely different outcome. There's three things at the brokerage that I always say for our agents that you're going to have these three attributes to be successful. One is a strong work ethic. Two, we just went over, having a positive mindset. And the third is being open-minded or coachable. It's very important to kind of be open-minded and coachable. So it's important to be kind of open-minded and coachable, and not just to people that might be above you on an org chart or in a superior position. I'll go to meetings all the time, or maybe a training where there might be a new agent that I learned something from. So I'm always open-minded that, hey, everybody has something to teach me, and I'm always willing to kind of gain that information or knowledge any way that I can attain it. So I'm never judgmental on who's going to be the one to kind of give me that information. So I say be open-minded and try not to get too defensive when it comes to criticism. There are going to be people who have your vested interest and want you to succeed. Honestly, they're going to probably give you some constructive criticism. They want to see you succeed. They have the roadmap or blueprint. Maybe they've been there, so they know what you need to do to get there. And when they kind of tell you these things that might correct some of the behaviors or lack of disciplines that you have with your work ethic, then you kind of take defense to that rather than acknowledging that they have your best interest at heart. When I was in another coaching organization with John Cheplak, and one of the things that he used to emphasize was that accountability is the greatest form of love that you can give someone. And the last thing I want to kind of do is get you in the mindset of an expectation. What really to expect in real estate? A lot of you are kind of watching these TV shows on Netflix or on cable, whatever it might be, of showing $1 million house and getting one of these golf-sized checks to kind of bring to the bank. It's that easy. Showing one home, you get paid these fat commissions. And obviously for those that are in real estate now or who've known somebody who's been in real estate, that's obviously not the true story and how it goes. There's a lot of work involved. And a lot of time people are quitting jobs because they kind of want to go into work for themselves and take on that kind of entrepreneur spirit and be self-employed. A lot of times what they're not taking into account is that you're actually going to work more. Typically when you have your W-2 job, you have a clock you punch, 40 hours. When you kind of go into real estate, you're working for yourself. There is no clock. So when I got into real estate for several years, I was working around the clock 7 days a week, nights, weekends, early mornings, whatever it took to kind of get the job done, because I was growing and building a business. And I think a lot of agents coming into this don't have the right mindset that they're actually going to be working more if they want to be successful than when they had a job that they're coming from. A lot of times they have kind of this false sense of hope, I guess you might want to call it, where, hey, I can work less, make more money, create this fun lifestyle and not be too stressed out. And that's not the case. So one thing that I really want to emphasize for all of you to get the right mindset, there's going to be a lot of work involved. The first 2 to 5 years of building the business, if you really want to be successful and really make a career out of this, you're probably looking at 50 plus hours a week of work to kind of gain traction, get started, and kind of really focus on building your brand and essentially building your business. That wraps up this episode. We went ahead and covered positive mindset, talked a little bit about language patterns and using words that might be, give you more favorable results. We talked about being open-minded to growth and coaching, and finally having realistic expectations for the work involved and creating success for you as an agent. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.